Little heat in the kitchen here in Rhode Island, and we'll check in with one of our standout reporters about it.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Kind of redundant to indicate that there's little heat in the kitchen, right? When there's not some heat in the kitchen. But, you know, it's really interesting that instinctively I say that. You know, I don't work with scripts here. Sometimes there's natural heat in the kitchen, and sometimes you just go in and turn the flame up because you want to. And I'm thinking that in part, some of the issues that Governor McKee is dealing with right now, specifically on an education contract that's captured the attention of the General Assembly, there's a little bit of this going on. And that's my take, and I'll elaborate on it when we have an opportunity here. Dan McGowan from the Boston Globe is here to talk to me about that. The East Side Senate special election, which he finds to be quite compelling. Test and stay is coming to Rhode Island. Gee, who said that we should have test and stay this month? Anyway, on other issues of the week, welcome aboard. Thanks very much for tuning in to this weekend's edition. The debt ceiling headline is something we always have to take a look at, right? Schumer announces deal. So here was Schumer last night. Well, I'm recording this on Thursday, so I apologize. Wednesday night, and then Mitch McConnell being the good soldier on Thursday.
We have reached agreement to extend the debt ceiling through early December, and it's our hope that we can get this done as soon as today.
Republican and Democratic members and staff negotiated through the night in good faith. The Senate is moving toward the plan I laid out yesterday to spare the American people a manufactured crisis.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you transfer your own bad behavior onto others. It's, well, you can often see when someone is doing that, right? Mitch McConnell and the Republicans this time around didn't want to have, and don't still want to have anything to do with raising the debt ceiling. But when they're in their power, or when their president is Republican and the debt ceiling needs to be raised, guess what they do? They just kind of quietly raise the debt ceiling. They'll do anything they can to push onto the Democrats responsibility for anything that you might smell as too expensive. The Democrats, rightly, are feeling wronged in this situation, but they have no gumption and they've got no agreement when it comes to things like this, because they can't trust the votes on a reconciliation basis of the 50 members of the Senate who are Democrat. Now, when I say reconciliation, your eyes start to roll in the back of your head. You don't really understand what I'm saying unless you're a student of government, and so few of us are, right? Which is really what the crux of this whole thing is, because when we hear there's a debt ceiling problem and we're at the 11th hour, we've heard that so many times we just kind of go, oh yeah, I think they'll fix that. So the announcements for a 2-month stay on the debt ceiling matter are the epitome of anticlimactical for all of us. And somehow, somewhere along the line, our Congress people are going to have to start to understand that, and maybe just blow the whole idea up. We'll get an economist in here to talk about that sooner than later, and on the radio, of course, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI. In the meantime, Facebook takes a terrific hit on Monday of this past week. We got a headline here, I think. I think the irony of their outage the day after the 60 Minutes interview with Ms. Haugen here, a former employee who dumped a load of documents on Washington and then went to testify in front of Congress. The double whammy was a near $6 billion hit in the stock and in cash flow. Think about this. For the 6 hours or so that they were out of business, $65 million of transaction for Facebook was lost. Think about the enormity of the economy of Facebook for itself and for the rest of the world. Too big to fail is not even close to understanding what Facebook's impact has been. On a utility level, you know, I'm a half a fan. You know, I gather news from it. I see some entertainment stuff on it from time to time. I am nauseated by the way it has changed behavior of people from all over the spectrum, including what I live to, my own friends and family. it is a phenom that probably will never be put back into the bottle, but somehow we better figure out the genie. And somehow we better get into the genie and be able to determine whether or not we can regulate the way they do business. Because if we don't, we are headed even deeper into the sewer, if you can imagine that. All right. In the meantime, one of the major political conversations of the day in Rhode Island has been this boondoggle over an education contract and the McKee administration dealing with it. It's now become a high-powered legislative oversight matter. Ted Nesi has this story.
Senators zeroed in on a Zoom meeting that Governor Dan McGowan held days after he took office, and they questioned whether this entire bidding process was designed to benefit one company.
The objective of the hearing is to get a handle on all the facts.
Senate Oversight Committee Chairman Lou DePalma kicking off the first hearing on the controversial ILO Group contract. The McKee administration receiving bipartisan criticism.
It doesn't hold water. It does not hold water.
My mom always used to say, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And there's a lot of smoke here.
As Target 12 first revealed, the state awarded ILO an education consulting contract, partly to help reopen schools during the pandemic, despite the fact the company bid millions more than an experienced competitor. ILO was incorporated 2 days after McKee took office, and at the time, ILO's managing partner was an executive at a nonprofit led by the governor's longtime ally, Mike McGee. Officials insisted no corners were cut.
The evaluation itself was handled by 4 experienced individuals. It was extremely comprehensive. It was fair. It was thorough.
But senators pointed to this entry on the governor's calendar showing McKee scheduled a meeting with Mike McGee and the state purchasing agent the same week he took office and ILO was incorporated. Senator Stephen Archambault pressed Department of Administration Director Jim Thorson about that meeting.
I didn't know who ILO was.
With all due respect, I didn't ask you if you knew who ILO was. ILO was discussed in the Zoom meeting. Isn't that correct?
Within the context that Mike McGee had known people at ILO.
It was discussed in the Zoom meeting. That's correct, right?
Correct.
Under questioning, witnesses also disclosed that the value of ILO's contract was set at up to $5.2 million by the governor's staff, not the independent review team that had vetted the company.
Who decided the breakup of $900,000 to West Ed?
So once they were deemed eligible, the agency, in this case the governor's office, had further discussions with the vendors and then decided how to break up the work.
The ILO contract is funded with federal coronavirus relief dollars. Lawmakers are set to continue scrutinizing the deal at 2 more hearings on Wednesday. With the Target 12 investigators, Ted Nesi, 12 News.
Again, we air this, we record this broadcast on Thursday. You see it Friday on Fox and Sunday on 12. That's where the timing is on that. Dan McGowan is with me. You covered this and a whole bunch of other stuff. Let me not lead the witness, by the way. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Let me not lead the witness. What is your executive summary on this? And then we'll dig into it in the next segment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's an outrage or an uproar over consultants, period. People hate consultants, legislators, the public, right? The word consultant, you're bringing folks in and, you know, oftentimes they're from out of state. In this case, they're not, but I think there's always sort of an uproar around that. This is a time and time again tradition in Rhode Island government to have this. I mean, I'm old enough to remember only a few months ago when former Governor Raimondo was having a big fight with Rhode Island College about a consultant that was, you know, getting paid healthily. And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, there's just always going to be people upset about the hiring of consultants. I think the governor has really struggled to articulate what it is this ILO group is actually going to do. And so that raises legitimate questions, right? If I'm only watching Channel 12 and they're telling me that this is a bad thing, and it certainly seems nefarious. It certainly, you know, has clouds over it in some ways. You know, again, being a consultant, I would say, wait a minute, what are we getting out of that? And that hasn't been articulated yet.
All right. We shall come back and discuss. Stay with us.
Too wordy.
I don't think you did anything illegal. Do I think it was some bad judgment? I gotta tell you, yeah, I do. I'd be lying to say otherwise. I mean, there's just no way I can put lipstick on this one.
Okay, Pat Serpa, Oversight Committee Chairman on the House side. The package that Ted Nesi put together was the Senate side. By the way, I find it fascinating that Senator DePalma chairs the Oversight Committee, is drilling down on a McKee administration financial dilemma of sorts, and never reminds people or discusses the idea that he was a top 5 finalist to be the governor's partner in his pursuit for lieutenant governor. You know, to some who have ethical common sense, it would suggest that perhaps he recuses himself from the chairmanship of such an inquiry. Minimally, you just ought to say it.
Yeah, almost.
It's like, you know, I love the situational ethics that come from those who interrogate. It cracks me up. Right, it just does.
I think it's a legitimate point, by the way. By the way, he's allowed to be the chairman of the committee. He can do it, but you can almost just take the air out of the room. Full disclosure. Boom, move forward. Right?
By the way, I'm a scorned candidate for lieutenant governor. Yeah. Not that impacts the way I'm putting the screws in on this investigation. Look, full disclosure here, Dan McGowan is a friend of mine. Dan McKee is a friend of mine. Believe me, if you've been listening to the radio this week, you would find that I have no trouble, I don't know what camera I'm on here, you would have no trouble understanding, I guess I'm on this camera, you would have no trouble understanding that I can give this governor a serious critique, and I have. I think the governor has some challenges with clarity, messaging, and holding firm to a decision. And I think we've seen some of those things in the vaccine stuff, the mandates.
Masks would be an example.
Notwithstanding, however, what I think is something that you, I'm sure, are aware of, but I think could use some standout journalism at your level, and that is to dig into the dynamics between the governor himself and the Department of Health. They are, to the naked eye, without even having any information, you can see that they are not always in lockstep.
Clearly.
Which creates some tumult. Speaking of the Department of Health, speaking of the virus, speaking of all of this kind of stuff, this particular ILO controversy is phenomenal to me in the sense that seemingly for convenience and for politics, the oversight committees are reacting to the heat, I think, put on by Target 12. Target 12 is a viable, credible, and important news organization, same building here. Just because they highlight a story doesn't mean it has to end in criminality, handcuffs, or impropriety of any kind. It seems that the Target 12 team, and we should talk to Tim and Ted about it at some juncture, are hunting down a possibility that somebody got something they shouldn't have gotten. Yep. Because at the end of the day, this is a consultant agreement to advance, at least when it began in March, a school openings effort which seemed to have taken care of itself. Right. Thus, the billing of this particular consultancy will never be as high as projected for the limit.
Right. Meaning the $5 million is what you're saying.
Correct. It's never going to hit $5 million. Right. No, it's billed by the hour. They didn't get a stipend or a retainer of $5 million. That's right. The second thing is that the governor is a dreamer on a bunch of levels. And one of the things that he wants to see is this municipal education facility program that he started in Cumberland with a guy named Mike McGee, who's at the center of this, who was in this nefarious meeting. No, it's a Zoom meeting. McGee's like, listen, I want to get this municipal school thing going. My guy McGee, who's on my transition team, who did my stuff in Cumberland, who is my friend, is on a Zoom meeting as they strategize about how to go about this. Right. Mr. Thorson, who's witness here, the administration guy, says, you know what, sounds like a plan, you got to bid this. Right. Meaning you have to have a procurement process. Bidding is different. Bidding means you got to take the low bidder. Right. Procurement process, they put it together. Right. Mr. McGee is connected to Ms. Raphael Baer, who runs ILO, who starts ILO either for a long term or for the purpose of doing this work. Many companies have to form formally in order to be able to bid for a contract.
Sure. You and I could, right after the show, go start a new contract.
Exactly.
A new company. Yes.
I'm not stealing Dan Simon. I want to get his reaction, but I need to lay this all out for you. This is, and by the way, It is well known that if the state of Rhode Island has a function to do that they don't have personnel for, they will bring in people in the line of business to actually advise them on how to build a request for a proposal so they know the business. And very well may be that the people they ask how to build it are bidders. The key is, after you've decided to request for a proposal, that's when you can't have any more special meetings with anybody. Right. And there's no evidence that they did. In fact, there were multiple bidders, and they had some process issues and some confusion over objective, going back to my original criticism of the governor. I mean, I've never seen more hullabaloo about nothing.
Yeah, you mentioned in your intro, talking about reconciliation and people not knowing what it means. Like, everyone who's watching's eyes just glazed over with everything you just said, right? I mean, that's the truth, that this is a purchasing blunder or potential blunder. Look,
I don't think it's a blunder.
I think it's a I think it's a legitimate story in the context of it's worth shining a spotlight on how the government works, things like that.
Sure.
Is it a, you know, should Governor McKee resign over this, or should the oversight committees be having very serious hearings about
Calls for the Attorney General to step in and investigate, because as soon as you do that, all of a sudden it's guilt by a suggestion.
Well, right, and suddenly then it comes to who's donating to who, and it just never ends, this kind of thing. Right?
Look, if Governor McKee in March, amidst all, remember, there's a lot going on in March.
Right, he's becoming the governor.
The virus is kicking up. Yeah. He's worried about school openings in the fall. He needs some help. He doesn't think RIDE, Department of Education, is fully capable of getting it done. Yeah. He's got this other dream about municipal stuff and whatever else is going on. By the way, the test and stay that he's kicking up now will probably fall under the auspice of this ILO Group to execute. Someone's got to do it. RIDE's not prepared. Right. If he had made a grand announcement in March about his mission to build municipal ed facilities and to add some special help in school openings for COVID, and advise the public that it will probably involve consultancy, and that there'd be a procurement process.
There would be no story.
There'd be no story.
There would be no story. I would agree with that 100%. I think he has dug.
There'd be no story.
That's right. I think he has dug a little bit of a hole because he didn't do that.
Right.
And then I think, look, the way he, and you know him better than I do, but the way he sort of handles negative coverage, the way he does pay very close attention to what's written about him, what is said about him. I think it's in some ways has paralyzed him in his ability to do anything else. 'Cause the only thing he's thinking about right now, that's all a problem. But it's not a crime. It's not something that he deserves to be, run out of town for. It's a personal problem, right? He has to figure it out. It's going to be a factor, as he runs for governor. But it's a different problem.
A personal problem is an interesting way to say it. I would say that, there may be a characteristic dynamic here. It's an organizational problem.
Agreed. That's a better way to say it.
It's an organizational problem, and it is incredibly fixable. Anyway. Projection, this thing dies a fizzled death, what?
Yeah, the challenge with this is when you start to hear the oversight committees and you start to call for Attorney General's investigations, and then when it proves out to be kind of meh, everyone's going to be outraged because no one took any action. When really, again, you could question the decision making here, but I think people are going to be left kind of holding the bag because it's not a major controversy.
And I'll leave this because I want to talk about the legislature, a special election with Dan in the next segment, but because he's well covered that. I get a big kick out of these legislators who can't get off their sorry tails to actually engage the $1.1 billion of COVID money that's sitting on a shelf waiting to be invested in the state, can't convene, can't ask leadership to convene, but they can run to a hearing to ask their one or two questions, drop a couple innuendo bombs, look for a soundbite that they can attain in terms of their scrutiny of good government, and then go back and pick their nose in their offices. I find this whole thing to be just typical gamesmanship.
It is. Gamesmanship is a very good way to put it. And by the way, I will say, they do this I mean, think about what they did this to Gina Raimondo. Whenever they could take a pot shot at her consulting and out-of-state hires, same thing. It was a, you know, let's call her to the carpet and be. They love to do this, and it's taking people's eye off the ball, I think.
A couple of minutes on the special election on the east side when we come back. You know, in your role as journalist, you cut to the chase on the facts and figures of a story, but in your role as columnist, you are allowed to opine a little bit. They give you some freedom at the Boston Globe, Dan. And you think the guy in the top left, Sam Zerrier, who won this East Side Senate special election, was a good choice by the citizens. And you were pretty impressed by the turnout. I got a minute or two here.
Yeah, 4,000 people, more than 4,000 people voted in a special election. That is, you wouldn't see that anywhere else in the state of Rhode Island.
Did the number of candidates energize the turnout?
I think the number of candidates energized the turnout. I think it happens to be a very engaged district, right? It's wealthy, people pay close attention. I wrote a column saying, look, all of these candidates were actually for that district. You know, again, you and I might differ on progressive and what's, you know, they should be more conservative. For that district, 5 pretty strong candidates in the race, but the clear choice was Sam Zerrier, and he won relatively comfortably. You know,
former city councilman.
Former city councilman. Here's a guy. I wrote this the other day, and I think it was exactly right. I'd like to believe is. There were 4 candidates who wanted to be senators in Rhode Island, and there was 1 candidate who really wanted to represent Providence in the Rhode Island Senate. That was Sam Zerrier. That was the case that he made.
Well, you know, I'm so impressed by your thought there, because I've been making a speech since get-go, my entire career, that I seek out the authenticity of a candidate who wants to do something versus wanting to be someone.
That's right. That's right, and that's you should have Sam. I mean, you know Sam Zerrier. Yeah. Look, he'll talk your ear off, and you know he can be very much in the weeds. Smart guy, thoughtful guy. You know, someone who can go up there and kind of cut through the nonsense. He's not always going to make everybody happy. There'll be times where he's against the leadership. There'll be times when he's for the leadership. He's probably not progressive enough for some of the folks in that district. But overall, I mean, you got a guy who is a serious person going up to the State House.
All right, down the line, we'll have to break down what is going on in the progressive movement, because a little bit of eating their own going on right now.
Lot of that, it seems. There was a lot of fire on the campaign night. You know, everybody's chirping at each other.
Yeah. Anyway, good work. Boston Globe Online, Dan McGowan. Get his newsletter. It's a must wake up, coffee read. Final word when we come back. So Governor McKee is challenged to bring more clarity in perhaps, you know, a retro view on this consulting problem, and maybe people will begin to understand it. The legislature, I don't know. I'd rather see them go to work and do the job they were paid to do. But that's just me. See you on the radio, weekdays 3 to 6 on WPRI.